Before we look at the vast majority of the footage that was exposed last night on Tucker Carlson, let me go ahead and tell you how this video is going to go. We're going to open this video up like I am right now. Then we're going to open it up with an actual full opening that I normally do. We're going to come back and we're going to look at roughly 3 to 4 pieces or 3 to 4 clips that were posted last night on the Tucker Carlson's Fox News website. The reason why is because Fox News is releasing this stuff only in like 5-minute increments. I have no idea why they're doing that. There's going to be a small cutoff period in the middle where I'm going to kind of use another piece of media to kind of convey what's actually going on here as far as informants are concerned. And then we're going to close the video out with the second half of the material that Tucker Carlson released last night on his show. And then we're going to end the video nice and neatly like we always do. With that there being said, I hope you guys stick around for the full video. And let's go ahead and get into this.
Mickey Mouse, forever let us hold our banner high, 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 high.
We have a lot to talk about and a lot to look at. Now, guys, this video right here, I'm going to try to release it a little bit later on tonight. However, I need to go ahead and preview this right now because for whatever reason, Fox News is only releasing Tucker Carlson's monologue in like 5-minute spurts. It's very, very weird. And even if you go online and you go to Fox News' site directly, of course, the articles themselves, it's still only condensed in like 5-minute and 20-second clips. So we got to kind of take it as it comes. Now, guys, a lot of this information that I'm about to talk about and review is information that, quite frankly, was already out there, been getting shared on Twitter for months, hell, even years. I mean, it was getting released, believe it or not, the day of the actual incident itself, which, by the way, we have to kind of code it a little bit different because if you say the actual words themselves, YouTube has this tendency to lay misinformation on your video, saying, oh, this is the misinformation. Oh, wait, beware, this where it could be misinformation. Of course, this is because the Google gods own YouTube. And of course, if they own YouTube, chances are there's going to be a certain narrative that's actually gone with. Now, guys, I've been debating all morning on how to attack this video, especially seeing how I didn't watch the monologue live. My goal is usually to watch it on YouTube when it's released by Fox News and then watch it a second time to kind of review it. And then, of course, make the screen recordings of the things that I think that, quite frankly, are a little bit relevant to discuss. Now, the thing is this right here. We all know what really and truly happened that day, and of course, you even had people releasing polls on it. Should these people be released and all that type of stuff there? And of course, many people, of course, now agree that these prisoners should be released. Now, a lot of us were saying the day of and the days after that they should have never been arrested to begin with, because if you actually looked at what really happened, you had two sides of what was going on at the Capitol. The media was showing you one end, and there was another section that was showing a bunch of peaceful protesters just simply walking in. As a matter of fact, that day in particular, I was actually at the gym. And we were watching it on the TV while I was sitting there doing an incline dumbbell press. I got up during one of the sets, and I look on MSNBC, and they've got one caption at the very, very bottom left portion of the screen in the corner, and you see people just casually walking in. And, of course, on the other side, they're showing you people who were a little bit rowdy. Now, the thing you have to understand is that a lot of these people who keep going with this narrative, they oftentimes neglect the fact that there were these riots in 2020, the George Floyd riots that completely destroyed all of Minneapolis. They also conveniently forget to mention how it was that portions of the city of Chicago were looted and destroyed. They oftentimes forget about New York, where the National Guard actually had to be called in at, or the NYPD was definitely on standby, almost as if to say they were answering a military situation. Same thing with the city of Chicago. Also, Los Angeles, California, and San Francisco had riots as well. A lot of these places damn near got tore apart. There was even a riot in, I think it was Austin, Texas, where one of these Antifa thugs actually got lit up by a U.S. Army Ranger. Don't worry, that right there may be a separate story down the road, because I've told these Antifa people that they don't stand a chance in an actual fight against people outside the cities, because in the cities, of course, you have massive gun control. It just so happened to be that one of these happened to slip out. But the thing is this right here. They oftentimes neglect to mention, I don't know, what was it, the storming on the White House, and how it was that the president had to be put in the bunker, which, by the way, has not happened since the War of 1812. And in that case, I don't even think there was a friggin' bunker, because the White House hadn't been attacked since 1814. That's, of course, not the same year as the War of 1812, but it's definitely during the War of 1812. So that way people out there don't get confused. Now, the thing you have to understand is this right here. A lot of information has been flying around on this. It's been flying around for years, and I have no idea why it took Fox News over 2 years to finally get to this. I mean, they should have been covering this from the very start to counter the narrative, but of course, they didn't want to do this. And I guess now, due to a lawsuit, I guess they now have to officially cover this. Now, guys, The opening of this video was not meant to be this long. We're going to hop behind the computer and we're actually going to review the information. So if it feels a little bit off from time to time, it's because I've had to wait for the information as it comes in. This is one of the reasons why this video may get released late tonight. This right here, of course, being late Tuesday night. There is another video being released today. Or it could be released on Wednesday as a 1 or 2 part series because there's definitely a lot of information to get in here too. Now, I'm going to try to get that in there. And then in the third section of this video, I'm going to give you guys a bit of a... how do I say, a bit of a personal story on how it is that you can kind of tell that something is definitely off, especially as far as it comes to informants, agents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And to end the video, I'm going to be talking about the information that obviously did not get into, not so much this video here, but into the video footage that Tucker Carlson was covering, hence the idea of why it is this video may be a 2-parter. With that there being said, let's go ahead and hop behind the camera. Also, guys, one more thing too. Hop behind the computer, my bad. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're not already subscribed. YouTube likes. Send this video through the algorithm. Also, leave a comment in the comment section. I want to get you guys' thoughts. And let's go ahead and look at this. All right, gang, we're here to review this, and yes, I paused it at Tucker Carlson's face like that. If you hear any additional noise in the background, it's just the acoustics. I need to get some actual panels to make things sound a little bit better. I want to go ahead and apologize for that now, but don't worry, the noise, if you hear it, it's going to be very, very low, and I'll try to find a way to edit that stuff out, try to fix the sound as best I can. Now, with that there being said, let's go ahead and just kind of look at this, and we're going to look at the second clip, but bear in mind, like I said, it's going to be this one right here, as you guys are seeing my mouse over here. Fox News has only been releasing these one at a time. I still can't figure out why they're doing this. And my guess is obviously to gain the YouTube system to get some additional views and maybe additional ad revenue. But still, though, I think the entire thing should be released all at once. And like I said, this right could warrant a follow-up, so make sure you guys stick around.
And welcome to Tucker Carlson's and happy Monday. We're about to show you surveillance footage from inside the United States Capitol. The images you'll see were recorded 26 months ago today, on January 6, 2021. Until now, politicians have kept this tape hidden from the public. There is no legitimate justification for that, and there never has been. On January 6, 2 years ago, thousands of protesters walked from a Trump rally on the ellipse outside the White House to the U.S. Capitol, where the certification of the presidential election was underway. The protesters were angry. They believed that the election they had just voted in had been unfairly conducted, and they were right. In retrospect, it is clear the 2020 election was a grave betrayal of American democracy. Given the facts that have since emerged about that election, no honest person can deny it. Yet the beneficiaries of that election continue to lie about what is now obvious. The real crime, they will tell you again and again, is not what happened on Election Day 2020. The real crime is what happened 2 months later on January 6th, when Donald Trump led an insurrection against the duly elected American government. To prove that claim and to divert attention from the details of the presidential election itself, Democrats in Congress impaneled what they called the House Select Committee on the January 6th attack. The point of that committee was to prevent Donald Trump from running for president again. In December of last year, committee members voted unanimously to refer Trump to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Mission accomplished. But what the committee did not do was explain what happened inside the Capitol on January 6th. 3 weeks ago, thanks to the new Republican Speaker's office, we gained access to thousands of hours of surveillance video that help answer that question. The January 6th committee had access to this very same tape and watched much of it. But as we're about to show you, committee members lied about what they saw and then hid the evidence from the public as well as from January 6th criminal defendants and their lawyers. That is unforgivable. Whatever you think of Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he rectified that crime, and we are grateful that he did. Before we show you the tape, a few words on the process. Our producers had unfettered access to the Capitol surveillance video. Neither the Speaker's office nor our bosses at Fox News interfered in any way with our investigation. Of the 40,000 or so hours of tape, most of it turned out to be irrelevant. Static shots of empty rooms, in some cases far from the Capitol itself. To find relevant videotape, our producers were given use of Capitol computers with advanced mapping software. That made it easy to find what we were looking for. What we didn't have was access to facial recognition software, and that was significant. For more than 2 years, we have wondered why some in the crowd that day who seemed to be inciting violence were never indicted for it. We assumed these were federal agents of some sort. We still assume that. And in fact, there were many examples of behavior we saw in those tapes that didn't seem to make sense. Men in civilian clothes holding doors open for protesters, escorting others through the Capitol, etc. We would love to know who these people were. But as of tonight, we don't know. And because we don't know, we're not going to put their faces on the screen and suggest they were federal agents. That would be irresponsible. So there were many mysteries we could not solve. Among them, unfortunately, is the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. From the evidence we have, the publicly available evidence, it seems clear that Babbitt was murdered by a Capitol Hill police officer called Michael Byrd. Ashley Babbitt was unarmed. She was shorter in stature than average. She posed no conceivable threat to anyone. But beyond...
And really quick, I got to throw this in here. It's believed that she wasn't even shot outside. Well, obviously she was, but it's believed that what really happened was that the Secret Service agent nailed her through a panel right outside, right where the vice president was at, Mike Pence. It's believed that what happened was that, and like I said, we have to maybe revisit this at a later date. So if you have any additional information, please leave it in the comment section. It's believed that what happened was that the Secret Service agent poked his gun through the panel hole, and as she was coming in, that right there is when he shot her. By the way, very interesting quotation here I'm showing you guys from the Tampa Bay Times. I just figured I would throw this in here while we were doing this. But the fact of the matter is this right here. Ashley Babbitt was not armed. Okay, she didn't really pose much of a threat. And for all we know, of course, she's dead. We don't know this for sure. But for all we know, she could have been trying to stop the protest. And something I wanted to say was there was a lot of information that was not released, some of which is in the very next clip, which I did look at, but not all of it is there. There were a lot of people screaming, "Get away from the windows, get away from the windows," because a lot of people could probably see that there was obviously something going on there. Maybe a game was being ran on them. I mean, we can talk about Ray Epps maybe a little bit in this video if they have any additional footage, but you might really want to pay attention. This is, by the way, part of the reason why I'm going to give you guys a bit of a personal story from something that I experienced a while back involving potential Fed activity. Of course, you're probably thinking, what, you Fed? No. It's something that I saw at a Trump rally back in 2016. I'm also going to use another example to kind of convey that, but let's go ahead and keep this going.
We can only speculate about what happened. There were no security cameras near the speaker's lobby where Ashley Babbitt was killed. And one more thing. Virtually no one in Washington, Republican or Democrat, certainly not in the news media, wanted to see this tape released tonight. That's why it's remained hidden for more than 2 years. In recent weeks, the usual hyenas in Congress and on cable news have been howling about we are putting lives at risk by showing this tape to the public. Given that these are the very same people who support open borders and defunding the police, it is hard to take their complaints seriously. But we do take security seriously. So before airing any of this video, we checked first with the Capitol Police. We're happy to say their reservations were minor, and for the most part, they were reasonable. In the end, the only change that we made was in blurring the details of a single interior door in the Capitol building. You're unlikely even to notice it when we show you, and we are confident it does not affect our reporting. With that, here's the video. It doesn't answer every question from January 6th, far from it. But it does prove beyond doubt that Democrats in Congress, assisted by Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, lied about what happened that day. They are liars. That is conclusive. And that fact should prevent them from ever being taken seriously again. We're going to get inside with footage that shows you what was actually happening inside the Capitol. The footage does not show an insurrection or a riot in progress. Instead, it shows police escorting protesters through the building.
Okay, now with that being said, we're going to go ahead and go to the very next video. If there is an ad, I will edit it out. So just bear with me.
These are the pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, They controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful. They were orderly and meek.
And some of this footage right here that Tucker is showing you is stuff that wasn't even released to Twitter. You see, one of the reasons why I want to talk about the information that did not get in is because it was being shared all over the place. There was even video footage of Antifa personnel saying that they were infiltrating as Trump supporters to cause a problem. There was also this bit about, which was a rumor, that somebody went and defecated in Nancy Pelosi's office. There was another rumor that went out that, and like I said, some of these things were rumors, but then again, some of these things, quite frankly, were in fact real. Like some of this stuff did actually happen. There's actual videos of it. Like I said, people posing as Trump supporters, people saying that they're going in to disrupt things. There was even a BLM activist that was actually arrested that day, or he was arrested right around the same time. Also, something else people also don't forget, people also forget, is that there had been a bomb discovered on, I think, the other side of the White House itself. I'll try to get that information if I can pull that up for you. Like I said, I'm kind of like going on the fly here, and if you see anything that's been edited in over what I'm showing you now, it's because I found the information after I got through recording. And as I've said before, it's probably going to warrant a follow-up because not all of the information on, I got to say 6.1 because of how the YouTube algorithm works, a lot of this information was actually hidden, but it was all over Twitter in the ensuing months and in really the ensuing years, if you actually want to think about it. As a matter of fact, the information is still floating around. The reason why a lot of people don't put it on YouTube is because they're afraid they might get a community guideline strike. I mean, for example, I got a community, not a guideline strike, but I had a video removed for talking about the DNI report from John Radcliffe and what it was probably going to unveil. YouTube straight up pulled that video down. I had no idea why, but then again, I realized that a lot of censorship was going on.
These were not insurrectionists. They were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol.
Let me say one more thing, and I'm going to run this back just a very, very, very quick second. I want to show you guys something, okay? It's right here. All right? Now, look. I've been to the Capitol building once. The Capitol building never allowed you to get, I'll put it this way here. You walk in here. There is a walkway going all the way into the areas where you can see what's going on in the United States Senate. Not the actual Senate chambers itself. Now, I don't know if any people are actually allowed to go in there, even with a specialized tour. But I want to say this. The activities of the police department that day were kind of weird. In my experience at the Capitol building, I had one officer. It was a girl. I'm not going to sit here and talk about whether she was attractive or anything like that. It doesn't really matter. But I was just standing in this area over here, and she was probably a good 15 to 20 feet away from me. And she was kind of sort of waving at me, and she was saying, "Get back, get back, get back." And she had an extremely mean-looking face when she did it. And I was like, okay, I'm just standing in line walking through here. So the fact that the Capitol police officers were apparently nicer than normal, that struck me as very odd. There's also something else to consider. If the Capitol Police Department is engaged in a brawl on the other side, don't you think that maybe it is likely that they have told everybody there that, how do I say this? Maybe we need to shut down the Capitol and not let anybody in. I really find it weird that they were allowing one side to go in freely and basically do whatever they want to be nice. Meanwhile, the other side, they're out there fighting and getting into it with the cops, which I find, like I said, super weird. But then again, though, it looks pretty obvious that it was clearly a setup from the very, very get-go, which is something that, quite frankly, myself and many other YouTube content creators had been saying.
Up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon shaman outside the Senate chamber. These are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once at the Capitol building, things began to get chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the front of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of others just walked in.
They're gonna make that the story.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman. QAnon shamans.
Really quick, before we go any further, I want to go ahead and say this. There was a lot of rumors going around about the QAnon shaman that maybe he may have been Antifa at the time. So I just want to go ahead and throw this out there. This entire situation was extremely confusing from start to finish. However, what was clearly obvious is what I had said to you guys at the very beginning of the video. I'm in the gym, I'm working out, and they're showing it on MSNBC. You see one side of the Capitol, you see people are in a bit of a scuffle. On the other side of the Capitol, and you're seeing at the very bottom right-hand section of the screen, which would have been my right-hand screen, the left-hand side on the screen itself, you are seeing people just walk in like nothing's going on, and you're seeing the cops basically let them go through.
Named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building.
Let me also say one more thing, too, okay? Look, I'm not a cop. I never have been a cop. The most I've ever done is do a couple of ride-alongs and go through the law enforcement academy. If this guy was a threat, if he really and truly was a serious threat, you've got 1, 2, 3. There's probably 4, because there's probably 4 or 5. There's probably 2 additional officers in there. If this guy is a threat, then why not grab him, put him on the ground, and peroneal strike him until he is completely subdued? Why not mandibular strike him? Now, I'll show you it towards the end of the video what I mean by if you don't know what a mandibular angle hold is. Why not put him on the ground? Why not get into a position where you can jugular or notch him? I mean, there's a lot of problems here. Okay, there's a lot that should have told people that this guy right here was being let in. They were all being let in. This was a great big giant setup from the start. And I've had to listen to a lot of liberals, especially libs in my own crowd, my own family and whatnot, tell me, oh, wait, this right here was an insurrection. This right here was a coup d'etat. Dude, this right here was probably the worst freaking coup d'etat I think I've ever seen in my life. The worst ever attempted one. It really sucked. It was obviously a setup, which many of us have said on multiple occasions. As I just said, if this guy is a threat, you've got 3 additional officers here. Why not put him on the ground and arrest him?
According to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jacob Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him. Shoot him.
This asshole here, by the way, Steve Schmidt, Wikipedia scrubbed this portion of his actual Wikipedia, but Steve Schmidt, of course, he was John McCain's campaign manager in 2008, one of the lead members at the one of the lead members at the Lincoln Project, or the pedo projects, what we call now that we know what they really and truly are. This is a New York Post article backing up the Wikipedia piece in which at one point in time he was set to be Donald Trump's campaign manager. Now, of course, Trump thought he was extremely incompetent, which most people in political circles do believe that Steve Schmidt is, in fact, a very incompetent person. I mean, dude, we all know that John McCain was going to lose in 2008, but the way that campaign was handled from start to finish, it was quite frankly embarrassing. You could have at least taken Florida or maybe kept North Carolina and Indiana in place. But this guy right here was a total joke and a total fraud and a total embarrassment. And he's had a personal grudge against anybody that was a Trump supporter or anybody who voted for Donald Trump, probably stemming all the way back to the day of which he interviewed in Trump Tower for the position of campaign chair. Trump very, very wisely sent him down the road and eventually hired Corey Lewandowski.
You burst into the United States. If he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him! Shoot him! It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob Chansley, and the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
And while we're on the topic of Lindsey Graham, let's run that back one more time. Trump keeps Lindsey Graham around him, and I don't understand why he does that.
To be said.
I really don't understand why he does that. But then again, though, whatever Lindsey tells him, he doesn't listen to. I think Lindsey is really just comic relief. I'm not trying to make a comparison from Trump to another dictator or anything like that, because as you guys know, I'm obviously a very, very pro-Trump guy. But the thing is this right here. I think it was Joseph Stalin kept Nikita Khrushchev around because Nikita Khrushchev was simply comic relief. A big part of me believes that Lindsey Graham is only kept around because Lindsey Graham is simply comic relief. Whatever Lindsey Graham says, Trump obviously does not do. He's a changeling. This is who he is. Saying that these people belong in a jail cell. Now, you could probably make the argument that a lot of these senators were below deck because of the fact that they were escorted down there. And maybe Lindsey's just running his mouth because he doesn't really know. Still, at the same time, though, this is an extremely bad take, and I hope someday Tucker Carlson has all these people on and holds them absolutely accountable. But then again, though, you're seeing these Truth Social posts that I'm putting up right now from Trump that essentially tells you that he wants these people freed. He's been saying it for a while. Now, you could argue in the comment section that he's only doing it now for political gain. But I've yet to see one single Republican leader or one single Republican politician call for the people of January the 6th to actually be freed. Most of these people, by the way, didn't even get real true charges. Like, a lot of these people got charged for stuff like trespassing, and they were out in a few months. Either way, though, their lives were absolutely ruined, because if you ever have anything on your background, regardless how minuscule it is, it can completely screw up your career. And the federal government's obviously to blame for this because these people got caught in what was obviously a setup.
In a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been there for months. If he was in fact committing such a grave crime, why didn't the officers who were standing right next to him place him under arrest? Until now, no one could even prove that even happened. But it did.
There's a little bit more footage, and we're going to get to that now, but this was footage that was recently released. I checked on my phone while I was doing this, that Fox News has dropped a couple more videos. Okay, gang, if you see me doing this right with the mouse, this right here is the label that my video will be nailed with. Okay, this is the label that my video will be nailed with. This is one of the reasons why I say 6-1, because they put this label on, which tells me that obviously they're still doing this. And this right here must be recent because they obviously were not on the two previous ones. So YouTube has recently labeled this context on this video. This is why you're probably going to see a funky looking thumbnail and a funky looking title to the video. Okay, as you guys are seeing, this is here. All right, now let's go ahead and roll this.
Then he does now. He represents the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Congressman, thank you so much for coming on. I have never seen members of Congress accuse the other, I mean, there's usually a kind of fraternity in the Congress. You're all members of Congress, 435, accuse their colleagues unfairly, without any evidence at all, of committing felonies. What's your response to this, to the lying from your colleagues in the Congress?
You've exposed so many lies tonight with these tapes that it's changed my perception.
Dude, these lies have been exposed for a while, okay? They've been exposed ever since January of 2021. The videos have been all over Twitter. The videos have been all over Rumble. They've been all over 4chan. They've been all over everywhere. Gab, not just Twitter. I mean, the only reason why it's getting exposed to Twitter, I mean, they were getting exposed before that. But I think the only reason why Fox may even be reporting on this is because of Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter. You see the Twitter files and all that stuff there provides additional incentive, especially now that Elon's playing like he's not working for the establishment when many people could argue that he is. But this information has been getting exposed for months, dude.
Of what happened 2 years ago, and I was there. The tapes of people milling peacefully about. And my hat's off to your producers for sitting over there and going through hours of this.
Yes,
but I would love to unleash the resourcefulness of the American public on these videos. I think they should be released. You know, I think it's poppycock that they can't be released because of some security issues. Look, I'm the one who's supposed to be secured by these buildings, and I'm not worried about releasing them. They need to be released. In fact, there was a Rasmussen poll that just came out. This showed over 80%, 78% of Democrats and 86% of Republicans say that all the videos should be released, and they should, because, as you said, Tucker, you didn't have facial recognition.
There was also a second poll that was released on Twitter to go with this one as well. I will try to get that information put in here if I haven't already put it in there. Of course, you guys know me. I'll watch it and then put the information on top of it in the cutaway afterwards. Now, here's the thing about why it is that Democrats would want this information released. Well, I'm pretty sure there's a certain subsection of Democrats who probably think that they might have been hoodwinked. It's one of the reasons why I keep telling people that the Democrat turnout in 2024, as information continues to come out, will be much, much lower. They won't be voting Republican. I can promise you that right now. But they'll definitely be staying home, which means you won't have as many bodies to go out there, because in order for you to do what they did in 2020, you've got to have actual physical bodies to actually be able to pull this off, meaning actual literal voters to help pull it off. The numbers got to be a certain way. It's one of the reasons why I keep telling people to go listen to Razorfist when he talks about these issues, because he knows a little bit more about the stuff that these people pull. By the way, those videos there from 2020, that night, they got scrubbed as well from Twitter. However, there is one particular YouTuber who removed the videos. I'm going to go ahead and say his name now, Felix Rex. He completely removed that channel, and now just Black Pigeon Speaks exists. He was also, by the way, one of the main people that they thought might have been undermining the establishment. There was even an article on it. I'll try to find that article and place it in the description box. But he had video evidence of what happened in Michigan. I got to say it a certain way because of YouTube's algorithm. As a matter of fact, this video right here could very, very well get hit as well. There's a reason why I decided to put all this stuff right here at the very, very back end of the video rather than the front end. Normally, it's what happens within the first couple of minutes that gets your video blocked.
Software there. We also we need a complete catalog of all of the feds who were there. Tell us who they were. Let's watch the videos and let's see what they did, because there's some really strange behavior on those videos of people behind the police lines in plain clothes, like touching them on the shoulder, talking in their ear, walking around boundaries as if they weren't even there. It's very odd. I'm the one who asked Merrick Garland. I showed him the tape of Ray Epps. The Democrats didn't like it. I had to show it on an iPad for Merrick Garland to watch it, and then he refused to say how many feds were there. But that was also in the Rasmussen poll. 57% of Democrats think that it's at least somewhat likely that feds, agents of the federal government, were not just there, but were also encouraging people to riot or go into the Capitol.
It's very clear from the footage that our producers bravely slogged through for 3 weeks, and God bless them for doing it, that's exactly right, that federal agents encouraged the violence that day. We're just a TV show, and we can't show people without proof of who they really were. But I agree with your assessment completely. That obviously happened. Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky, thank you.
Really quick, before we go to the next one, which is a Fox News article itself, and we'll also be talking about the CNN article, I want you guys to know right now, Merrick Garland's deposition will be covered in the video that I'm going to be working on this afternoon, which will be released tomorrow. It'll be kind of a follow-up to kind of give you an idea of exactly what's going on. This conversation, you're seeing it right here at Forbes Breaking News. Does your department have a problem with anti-Catholics? Okay, that same thing Thomas Massey is talking about occurred on the same exact day that Senator Josh Hawley. By the way, Josh Hawley deserves a lot of vindication because he was kind of beat up on this and said that people thought, well, he was a bit of a coward apparently because of the security footage. However, it kind of now vindicates him, and I've been saying for a while that Hawley more than likely was either confused at the time and didn't know what was going on, but now we have a better picture. We will be discussing this one in the video that I plan on making this afternoon to go on top of the video that I have for short timer prepping tomorrow, which is a follow-up to my previous Ukraine tech. I just figured I'd go ahead and let you know that this right here will be included in tomorrow's video. Now, there is one more thing that I do want to look at before we go any further. I am recording this in my apartment, very, very low acoustics. I have to record things like this at a certain portion of time of the day. It's part of the reason why my projects sometimes come out a little bit later than normal. But as you guys can see, this right here is Google Top Stories. This is first from CNN. What to know about the Tucker Carlson January 6th footage. As you guys can see, I obviously clicked on this article a little bit earlier. We will probably come back to that article and read it. Tucker Carlson, the video speaker provided by Speaker Kevin McCarthy, falsely depicts. You guys can kind of already see this in the actual reporting, even though you guys have been looking at the reporting itself. It's one of the main reasons why we're going to be doing this more and more over the next few days. Now, let's take a look at I want to say it's the Tucker Carlson tonight. I want to say it's this article here. I'm not entirely sure. Bear with me because we're doing this very raw. But there's a lot of footage here that apparently they've been releasing bit by bit. Now let's see what we've got here. And of course you're probably going to get an ad.
What you gonna do? Don't do it.
Within hours of January 6th, literally hours, you began to hear that day described as a deadly insurrection, and not described by one news outlet or one politician, but in unison by all of them, almost like it was coordinated. A deadly insurrection. That's how history may record January 6th. But the tape that we reviewed from within the building on that day proves it was neither an insurrection nor deadly. Here it is.
January 6th, when an estimated 2,000 rioters breached the Capitol building, causing the deaths of 5 police officers.
Certain dates echo throughout history.
Actually, the only police officer that was reported to be dead was Brian Sicknick, and that turned out to be a heart attack.
December 7th, 1941. September 11th.
This bitch really don't need to be speaking. She's an embarrassment.
And January 6th.
The mob beat officers with anything they had on them. Hockey stick, a flagpole, a fire extinguisher. Police officers died.
Donald Trump supporters who, of course, rioted and killed police officers.
By the evening of January 6th, the Democratic Party and its publicists in the national news media had settled on a description of what had happened that day. They distilled an enormous number of highly complex events that even now we don't fully understand, into a single emotionally elated political slogan, which they've repeated for years with remarkable discipline. January 6th, they said, was a deadly insurrection.
There was a deadly insurrection that the right wing is trying to cover up.
He incited a deadly insurrection.
Incited a deadly insurrection.
The violent, deadly insurrection on the Capitol 9 months ago, it was about white supremacy, in my view.
A deadly insurrection. Everything about that phrase is a lie. Very little about January 6th was organized or violent. Surveillance video from inside the Capitol shows mostly peaceful chaos. But the slogan worked. The term deadly carries enormous emotional power, which is why they used it. To prove the insurrection was deadly, propagandists pointed to the death of an officer called Brian Sicknick. The mob killed Officer Brian Sicknick. That's what they said. It was their single most powerful indictment of the January 6th protesters and of Donald Trump and of Republican voters nationally. They repeated that claim for years. They are still repeating it. At first, they told the country that Officer Sicknick was murdered with a fire extinguisher.
Officer Brian Sicknick died after being hit in the head with a fire extinguisher during the fight.
That story came from the New York Times, which is effectively the assignment editor for most of the rest of American media. It was a lie, untrue in any way. But only after that lie had hardened into conventional wisdom did the newspaper bother to retract it.
The New York.
I want to say it was the Washington Examiner who posted that it was actually a heart attack. Now, we'll probably get some more information here, and I understand I probably stopped it when I shouldn't have, but I'm just giving you guys a bit of a preview that it was already reported on. Holy shit. Let's go back and fix this. All right. Crap. Sorry about that, guys. You gotta be shitting me.
Protesters and of Donald Trump and of Republican voters nationally. They repeated that claim for years. They are still repeating it. At first, they told the
its story about the death of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick.
The damage had been done. Brian Sicknick, himself a Trump voter, had been transformed without his consent into a political martyr of the left. His memory was shamelessly exploited by the incoming Biden administration. In February of 2021, Sicknick's body lay in state in the Capitol Rotunda, where a parade of unscrupulous politicians made use of it. Here's Joe Biden.
Breaking down the doors, trying to overturn an outcome of election, and killing several police officers in the meantime.
But Brian Sicknick should not be reduced to a prop for the political ambitions of the Democratic Party. He was a human being. The facts of his life matter, including how he died. To this day, media accounts describe Sicknick as someone who was, quote, slain on January 6th. The video we reviewed proves that is a lie. Here is surveillance footage of Sicknick walking in the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by the mob outside. By all appearances, Sicknick is healthy and vigorous. He's wearing a helmet, so it's hard to imagine he was killed by a head injury. Whatever happened to Brian Sicknick was very obviously not the result of violence he suffered at the entrance to the Capitol. This tape overturns the single most powerful and politically useful lie that Democrats have told us about January 6th. And it was indeed a lie. The January 6th committee knew perfectly well that Brian Sicknick was walking normally through the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by Trump supporters. And they know that because they saw this tape.
In reality, what he did die was actually a heart attack, as I mentioned before.
Because they saw this tape. We can be sure because the footage contains an electronic bookmark that is still archived in the Capitol's computer system. That means that investigators working for the Democratic Party reviewed this tape. They saw it, but they refused to release the tape to the public. Why? Because this tape would shatter the fraud they were perpetrating on the country. Because hiding the truth served their political interest. They lied about the police officer they claimed to revere. If they were willing to do that, then their dishonesty knew no limits.
Now, guys, I understand that I'm kind of cutting back to myself in between takes, but I thought about doing it here to kind of preview something a little bit later on. And don't worry, we'll get back behind the computer and we'll look at some more information. Probably the longest video I ever did. The thing is this right here. When we talk about Ray Epps, I want to give you guys another example of feds infiltrating or getting a hold of a certain group. Do you guys remember Jay Johnson? Now, guys, I'm showing you the original video that Jay Johnson, the leader of INFAC, had posted, calling an AR-15 a bullpup and also calling it a XR-15, saying that it kicks like a mule, or basically it kicks like a bitch. When anybody who's ever fired an AR-15 or even owns an AR-15 knows that is not true. Also, the bolt being pulled back. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, what does that have to do with January with 6-1? Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this guy right here basically went out of his way to go lie to an entire group of people to kind of stir them up. There were a lot of YouTubers at the time, Black Scout Survival, who else? Heavy Duty Country, and don't worry, we'll bring him back up here in a second. Warhog 71, Moorish World, several YouTube content creators, and one I know personally, X Marks the Spot Marksmanship, who used to make some extremely hilarious videos making fun of this guy. Most of us just thought that he was full of crap. I mean, hell, I even made a couple of videos on this guy, and we thought that for the most part he was just full of crap. He was probably a stolen valor guy, and he was trying to intentionally mislead a certain group of people, this way being black people who may be a little bit on the tendency of maybe possibly being radicalized, like some groups would try to radicalize white people, okay? We were under the impression that this guy was obviously full of crap. He's just going to get a bunch of people killed. Well, now we know the reason why. It was Heavy Duty Country who released a video theorizing that Jay Johnson may have been an FBI informant. I advise you guys watch that video. I'll try to leave it in the description box of this video. Or you guys can just go to his channel and just type in fact, and you'll get a whole bunch of videos on it. I highly advise you guys watch it because he provides a very compelling case that Jay Johnson was not just some random okie doke who was out there trying to radicalize people. That it's very possible that he may have been trying to radicalize these people for an actual purpose, meaning that maybe they're trying to actually gin up the chaos and confusion, which, by the way, I said in yesterday's video, and of course I said in the video that I released today that was going to be released before this one, how it is that the media is beginning to, how is the media is actually manipulating people. They're using the pro wrestling playbook. I'll say it over and over again, and there'll even be a project out either on Friday or Saturday to kind of help convey that. The original Naperville TED Talk from Eric Bischoff himself, coincidentally somebody who was in the WCW and WWF, so he would obviously know. This is how they're doing it. And obviously they're sending people in to infiltrate certain groups to try to radicalize them or get them to do very, very stupid stuff. There's also another video out where the cops are actually saying that they felt like they were set up. Some of them were. So it's very possible that a lot of police officers themselves are kind of sort of coming to the conclusion that we got had too. Now, you obviously heard that. Now, I didn't know that Sicknick was a Trump voter. I did not know this. But the original report, from what I remember, was that Sicknick had died of a heart attack. That was later on then confirmed, I think, through the Washington Examiner. I had actually mentioned that in the recording before the computer kind of took me in different directions. I had to cut that part out. But the thing that you have to understand is that misinformation is, in fact, real. I mean, guys, I'm going to get labeled with a label on this video here once it releases later on tonight or possibly tomorrow morning. I'm trying to release it tonight. Now, that being said, let's get back behind the computer.
Pieces tonight. We're going to show you more in just a moment. But first, we're going to pause and bring in the New York Post Miranda Devine, who's been on top of the story from the very beginning. By the way, this will be the front page of tomorrow's New York Post. Miranda Devine joins us now. Miranda, thanks so much for coming on. So the disconnect between what they told us happened inside and what we now know happened inside, thanks to the surveillance video, is vast. But in the case of Jacob Chansley, it's very troubling since his life has been destroyed and he's in prison as we speak. Simple question. How, given that Jacob Chansley was wandering around with armed police officers who appeared from the footage to be helping him, could he be indicted and convicted and they not? Like, how does that work?
Well, it's very sad because obviously you can see from the demeanor of the police officers and from his own demeanor that he was harmless, that they regarded him as harmless. You saw him walk past about 9 other police officers. They didn't even give him, a look, even though he was dressed so garishly. He's obviously a performance artist and was not posing any threat to anybody. You can see where they help him open a door to go in to the Senate chamber. And so why on earth was that footage not used as exculpatory evidence in his trial? This man is spending almost 4 years in jail, a naval veteran, aged 33 years old, and he's just puzzled about it. You can see in that jailhouse interview that you played that he is sort of, he says his regret is that he thought because the police officers were showing him around that it was okay, that what he was doing was appropriate. And you can see the way those people were walking through the Capitol, as you say, they are walking meekly, politely, queuing, very peaceable, that they don't mean any harm.
Lesson learned here. Don't trust the police. Sorry, but I gotta say that.
Treating the Capitol with reverence. That doesn't excuse the others, the minority of the protesters who did break windows and fight police and injure police and cause mayhem. But the people who are now being picked up and some of them have been jailed without trial for months, even years on end, did not commit violence. They walked through open doors. They were escorted by police. They felt that this was okay. And I think Jacob Chansley is a classic example of that.
If I go to the door of a liquor store and a uniformed police officer opens it for me, I walk in, I take the money out of the till and then leave, escorted by the police officer, he's an accessory to the crime I just committed. I'm not attacking the Capitol Police. We're grateful for their help in getting this video out. But that doesn't make any sense at all. And the federal judge who oversaw this case doesn't seem to have noticed. This seems insane to me, and I don't know why no one is willing to explain it.
Well, clearly the Capitol Police, none of them, you have 9 or 10 officers there, do not think that there is anything unusual about this guy with the fur hat and the Viking horns and the face paint wandering around the corridors and walking into the then, Senate chamber that had been evacuated. What we hear from the Capitol Police, they tell us, is that they were trying to de-escalate the crowd, de-escalate any unrest. And so perhaps that's what they were doing. They were completely outnumbered. I don't really blame the Capitol Police. All they were trying to do was keep people calm and happy. They were betrayed by Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, who refused the repeated requests by the Capitol Police Chief, Stephen Sund, in the days before and several times on the day of January 6th for backup, for National Guard. That is the most inexplicable part of this story.
It is. And in fact, tomorrow we're going to have an interview with a Capitol Police officer in charge of the sector where this took place inside the Capitol, explaining what happened, and it's shocking.
We'll come back to that one a little bit later on, but let me also say this really quick. I mean, I haven't said it yet, but it's pretty obvious. QAnon Shaman is a very easy person to make fun of, and let me explain the reason why he's a very easy person to make fun of. Look at the way he looks. You see, QAnon Shaman was used, and he was obviously used to paint all Trump supporters as crazy. That's the reason why they did this, okay? It's the pro wrestling playbook, okay? That's what the hell this is. It's a pro wrestling playbook. It's also blatant character assassination. Let's make this guy look absolutely insane. Let's make him look crazy. And by the way, the outfit he was wearing, you probably would have gotten that intention. But then again, though, I know people who are completely sane who cosplay and stuff all the time. Obviously, he was just wearing a shaman uniform with horns on it. But the thing is this right here. It was obviously used to try to humiliate Trump supporters at large. That was the whole purpose behind it. I mean, one of the worst memes I've ever seen is all the pride flags and all that stuff on a certain individual. And they're saying they brainwashed you looking at a little stick figure who's just wearing a red Make America Great Again hat and holding a flag. The logic of these people was absolutely insane, the victimhood mentality. And it's just weird how many people just kind of fell for this, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like I said, it's pretty obvious that Chansley was being used as somebody to make fun of. Now, somebody put on Twitter a while ago that they may try to free him right away. I personally think he should be freed. As a matter of fact, I think the vast majority of the people who did get charged, and I know I said earlier in this video that a lot of them got trespassing charges. And by the way, they should have never got charged anyways. I mean, as you guys can see, they were obviously let in. A lot of judges, even some of the D.C. area who are very, very liberal, agree that these people did not need to be overcharged. I think a lot of these people that were January 6th were completely overcharged. I mean, there was even an operation to try to like apprehend everybody that was there. Of course, our security apparatus, while it's big in scope, is not as big when you actually look at it. There's not enough people there. I mean, people were requesting, like she said, and this right here was on record, people were requesting that there be more security at the Capitol. Nancy Pelosi even asked the Commandant of the Marine Corps for the Marines. He said no. I mean, so it should tell you that this entire operation could have been a lot bigger and a lot larger, and people obviously did not send any more there. I mean, there was a lot of security that apparently was not there, and now we know the reasons why, because it was a great big giant setup. Let's take a look at this one right here. This is probably the last one for right now, if it'll allow me. Here we go. Fox News' BS website.
If there's one takeaway from the corpus of footage that we spent 3 weeks looking at, it's that the January 6th committee lied. Its members are liars. And as the result of those lies, core civil liberties in this country were eroded. People went to prison. They're in prison as of right now, unjustly. So those lies had consequences. So you have to ask yourself, whatever happened to the members of the January 6th committee? These liars who hurt people and the country. Well, let's see. Adam Schiff is running for Senate. Adam Kinzinger got a job at CNN. Liz Cheney somehow wound up a professor at the University of Virginia, the august University of Virginia. They're all still there. Benny Thompson, ooh, listen to his wisdom, but they're liars. And above all, this video proves it. Here's another installment. One of the enduring mysteries of January 6th is the role that intelligence and law enforcement agencies played in the events of that day. We know there was some number of undercover federal agents in the crowd at the Capitol. Officials have since admitted that under oath. But what exactly were they doing there? The January 6th committee worked hard to hide the answer to that question. We do know from contemporaneous videotape that a mysterious figure called Ray Epps encouraged the crowd to go into the Capitol. For some reason, Epps has never been indicted for that. But there's no question he did it.
We need to go into the Capitol!
Under public pressure, the January 6th committee finally interviewed Ray Epps. Epps told the committee that he never entered the Capitol and therefore never committed a crime. His text messages showed that at 2:12 p.m., he boasted to his nephew that he had, quote, orchestrated the protests at the Capitol. He admitted he helped get people there. Yet, curiously, congressional Democrats consider Ray Epps an ally, not an insurrectionist. Tonight, we can tell you that at the very least, Ray Epps lied in his sworn testimony to the January 6th committee. Epps testified that when he sent the text messages to his nephew, he had already left the Capitol grounds to return to his hotel room. That is not true. The surveillance footage we found shows that, in fact, Ray Epps remained at the Capitol for at least another half an hour. You're seeing that on your screen now. What was Epps doing there? We can't say, but we do know that he lied to investigators. The January 6th committee likely knew this too. Democrats had access to the same tape, yet they defended Ray Epps. No honest investigation would do that. But the point of the January 6th committee was never to investigate anything. The point was to stage a made-for-TV show trial. From the opening moments, the tone of the hearings was almost comically overheated and polemical. There is not a tragedy in American history that Democrats didn't liken to the protests of January 6th.
I'm from a part of the country where people justify the actions of slavery, the Ku Klux Klan, and lynching.
How staged and fraudulent was the work of the January 6th committee? Democrats hired a Good Morning America producer called James Goldston to dramatize the footage they released. They even dubbed in audio to make the pictures more sensational, as in a docudrama. The networks carried it all live as if it were real. But Donald Trump was far from the only target.
The enemy is within the House of Representatives.
Within hours of January 6th, Democrats alleged a conspiracy. They claimed their Republican colleagues had helped to plan the breach of the Capitol building. There was never any evidence this was true, none at all, yet it was widely repeated.
Our colleagues are continuing to engage with white nationalist extremist groups, the most violent attack on the Capitol since the War of 1812.
At one point, the January 6th committee publicly accused Republican Congressman Barry Laudermilk of Georgia of leading a reconnaissance mission through the Capitol building the day before.
They were looking for some member of Congress that was involved in all this.
The surveillance tape that we reviewed shows this story is a lie, and the Democrats on the committee knew it was a lie when they told it. The so-called reconnaissance mission Democrats alleged was nothing more than Congressman Laudermilk giving a guided tour to his constituents from Georgia, none of whom were, quote, insurrectionists. Laudermilk didn't even take the group inside the Capitol building. They walked through a congressional office building down the street.
The FBI totally cleared them. The committee knew this before they actually made their accusations against me. It wanted to create this story that would, fit where they wanted the evidence to lead.
Despite the video evidence they possessed proving it wasn't true, the committee included the lie in its final report. Protesters, it says dramatically, quote, took a tour of the Capitol with Representative Barry Laudermilk, during which he took pictures of hallways and staircases.
If you read the final report, it was a manifesto against Donald Trump. That's all it was.
When the committee wasn't accusing Republican office holders of planning riots on January 6th, it was accusing them of running away from those riots like cowards. In the case of Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, the committee and their allies accused him of both.
Josh Hawley is a...
To prove that Josh Hawley was a coward, the committee released video of him loping out of the building on the afternoon of January 6th with a police escort. The tape became a staple on social media. Democrats laughed with derision.
Later that day, Senator Hawley fled after those protesters he helped to rile up stormed the Capitol. See for yourself.
But in fact, the surveillance footage we reviewed shows that famous clip was a sham, edited deceptively by the January 6th committee. The clip was propaganda, not evidence. The actual videotape shows that Hawley was one of many lawmakers being ushered out of the building by Capitol Hill police officers. And in fact, Hawley was at the back of the pack. The coward tape was a lie, one of many from the January 6th committee.
Now, gang, like I said before, and I wanted to provide a lot less commentary on that end. Yeah, sorry about that whole ad there from the SAG. So it took me a second. I had to step away from the computer just for a quick second. Now, the thing you have to understand is this entire ordeal was designed to smear Trump voters as a whole. It was designed to smear even the most pro-Trump members of Congress. If you guys recall correctly, Senator Hawley was the first Republican senator to say that he would protest on January the 6th, or he would provide a rebuttal. I think Ted Cruz ended up being the second. No, Tommy Tuberville was the second one, and then Ted Cruz eventually joined. As a matter of fact, Ted Cruz was the first one to actually make an argument. I remember that day very well. The thing you have to understand is that this entire ordeal was designed to smear Trump supporters as crazy themselves. Everything that they did, and I've been saying this for a while, the second impeachment of Donald Trump, all that stuff was completely unrealistic. Even the Mar-a-Lago raid was completely unrealistic. But seeing how Ray Epps was brought up, let me go ahead and tell you what Ray Epps was. Ray Epps was there to ensure people went into the Capitol. Okay, there was even videos from the night before. They were all over Twitter. There's even been videos of him at his home in Arizona where people have actually gone and asked him, maybe on camera, say, look, what did you have to do with this? He drives away. Fact of the matter is, Ray Epps is more than likely a protected informant. That's probably what the hell he is. And you will probably never get anything out of him anytime soon. If you do get anything out of him, I would be shocked if you do. Now, gang, with that right there being said, let me go and get the last portion of this video. This video is going a little bit longer than I wanted. I didn't expect it to go. And like I said before, it would have been a part 1 and 2, which there still may be a part 2 to come out later on tomorrow or tomorrow night, or both these videos may get released tomorrow. I know it's been a long time, but gang, before I end this video, after looking at everything you guys just saw, I showed you earlier the whole Jay Johnson bit where I was kind of reminding you guys of exactly who this guy really was or what he could be, possibly an FBI informant. I want to tell you guys a quick story, and this where it kind of made me think about this last night as I was looking at all the footage coming in, especially on Twitter, that I was reminded of my first time actually being on television as far as it being serious. It was a Trump rally that was held in the town I live in. I'm not going to tell you what town it is. You guys can probably speculate and theorize all you want. But I was on CNN. I actually was shown that night on CNN. Now, the videos are kind of hard to find because it's been 2016. There's obviously been a lot of Facebook posts. So we may not be able to get that footage, but if I could ever find that footage, I'll try to get it and actually show it to you. And I was like, no facial hair, no nothing. Even what I was saying, I look back on, I kind of thought to myself, you probably could have worded that a little bit better. You've seen how you guys know I'm not the most eloquent person in the world. But it was a Trump rally. And you guys know me. I'm very, very much a Trump guy. Going to vote for him probably the third time. Should he become the nominee, which I believe he will in 2024. And the people around me were just good old-fashioned common people that I see every day. I mean, I didn't really know them, but the type of people that I normally see. But it was these two gentlemen behind me, and one of them was screaming that what Donald Trump should do, and he was screaming this while CNN was around. Now, he could have been doing this to kind of screw with CNN, but he was saying stuff like what Trump should do is when he becomes president, he should invade Mexico and take that country over, then build a wall. Crazy stuff, things like that right there. Now, this guy, like I said, no problems, no nothing. Not going to tell you guys' name or anything like that. I think he may have been joking. More than likely he was. However, the press will seize on people like that. Then you find out later on that they may have been actually an FBI informant. It's one of the main reasons why I'm thinking about creating a whole other channel designed for conspiracies and stories to kind of show you guys exactly how this thing works, because I do plan on making this entire thing into a great big giant network of actual channels where different topics are discussed, and maybe even a podcast at a later date. But people need to be kind of informed of exactly what is going on and how this thing occurs. Now, in the case of Ray Epps, as I said earlier, I think Ray Epps was there to ensure that the entire deal was done. He basically was a bag man, or you could say he was a hatchet man. His job was simply to make sure people went into the Capitol and people got riled up, and he even stayed in the crowd for a while. Very big guy. More than likely, nobody's going to walk up to him and just start beating up on him or attack him. More than likely, nobody's going to point at him and say, traitor, 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 fed, 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 fed. Even though I can promise you right now that if enough people had actually figured that out, because what they did was they took advantage of the emotions of the crowd that was there to peacefully protest. If he'd have been there and somebody had been pointing their finger and they'd have been screaming, fed, this entire ordeal probably would not have occurred. That's how deceptive these people are. Now, guys, with that right there being said, this video has gone long enough. There's probably going to be a follow-up to it as far as talking about the mainstream media's response to what Tucker Carlson apparently unveiled, which, by the way, is the same information that a lot of us had been unveiling for a while. I want to ask you guys to please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, give me you guys thoughts in the comment section. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some negative comments because I know some SJWs are still living in la-la land. This entire thing was the worst thing to happen since September the 11th. But still, I hope you guys do that. With that there being said, I'll see you guys later. This video I'll try to post it tonight at right around 7 o'clock p.m. There'll be another video that comes out right around 3. If it does not get out tonight, it'll definitely be out tomorrow with the follow-up video, and I'll see you guys later.